Let's face it, if you're over 40 years old, like most of my audience, we have amassed a lot of life experience. And within some of that life experience, there might be things that we may not want to share with another person. And I thought I'd lean into this conversation because one of my contemporaries, Matt Boggs, had did a video on this. And the 5 things he shared, I thought was worth exploring at a deeper level. Quite frankly, I thought his content was great. I just want to acknowledge that. And I'll put a link below to access that video. Okay. So with that said, what is a secret? Well, secret is something you most likely don't want to share with another person for a variety of different reasons. And when it comes to relationship secrets, I think these 5 things are something rather important to consider when you are either beginning a new relationship or you're in a budding relationship. Now, part of the reason why we want to explore this conversation is because there's a big difference between emotionally mature men and what I call emotionally constipated men. That's right, emotionally constipated men. These are men that most likely have a challenge being expressive with their emotions. They have a challenge with acknowledging their emotions. And in many cases, these men are also living a life from ego. And what that means is they're living a life more self-centric. Now, self-centric means that they only care about their own needs. And this happens to be the majority of people in the dating marketplace. I would roughly say about 80% of both men and women alike operate from this space of either using other people, that's the love bombers, the players, the gold diggers, the entitled people. And then there's the dysfunctional people. They want companionship, they want connection, they want sex, but they're not capable of actually leaning into a deeper level of commitment. Why is it important to differentiate this? Because the reality is there's a good chance that you might be dating one of these people who is incapable of leaning into a deeper relationship. And so sharing these secrets will only aggravate the relationship with those people versus those men who are growers and builders. Growers and builders are the men who genuinely want a life partner. They want someone to go on their last journey, if you will. Because if you reach midlife, you're probably in the 3rd or maybe 4th chapter of your life. And I look at chapters as being 5 chapters of our life, our first 20 years, where we are basically coveted and supported by our parents, and the next 20 years where we're, in many cases, launched out onto our own. And then the next 20 years from that age 40 to 60 is really for most people, maybe they have family, maybe they're building their business, maybe they're growing in their professional capacity. And then in our 4th and 5th chapters where illness starts to come in, and I don't mean to laugh, but our bodies start to begin to deteriorate, and we start seeing the days in front of us are shorter than the days behind us, okay? Why is this so critically important? Because not wasting your time and not sabotaging a relationship is critically important. And in many cases, when women do share these things, they might be unconsciously sabotaging the relationship instead of looking to grow the relationship. So I want to pull out my notes from and this is directly from, again, Matt Boggs. I want to credit him for this video. I thought he did an excellent job, and I want to acknowledge that. But the first secret you may not want to share with a man is sexual details about their past partner. Okay, men are territorial, okay? We'd like to think we're your best lover on the planet. We'd like to think that you've never had sex with another human being. And so listen, we're all grown-ups and we know that you have been intimate with other people. Okay, so we're not that clueless. At the same time, hearing particular details, certainly with an emotionally immature man, an emotionally constipated man, might not be a good idea. Now, for some people, that might be a turn on. For some men, that might be a turn on. For some men, they might have a genuine curiosity Um, and they might come at it from a place of how can I do better to please you? Now, there are some men that might adopt that, but for the most part, I would say that sharing particular details, unless it's and the problem is if he directly asks you for details, I may not want to share it either. Look I'm a big proponent of being vulnerable, being authentic, and being transparent. I'm going to share that a few more times in this video. Vulnerable is sharing something that might have, might be a little scary for you. Authentic is being true. In other words, in that space of if someone asks you a question, it's good to be authentic, to good be truthful. But only if it's material to the relationship should it be transparent. If it's material to the relationship, then transparency is rather important. And I don't think sharing about past sexual experiences is necessary. In very few instances could it directly affect the relationship. Okay, number 2, things you hate about yourself. Again, when we are coming at if we're looking inward from a negative place and then we share that negativity, it reinforces that negativity about ourselves. And I can understand why that isn't a healthy thing to do. At the same time, when you're with an emotionally mature man, and you're being that vulnerable, you're being authentic, and maybe those things you hate about yourself needs to be unpacked and discussed, then I would say in that particular case, only when you're with an emotional grown-up man. And the challenge is many of you are out there in the dating realm and you have a broken picker. In fact, that's what my job is to help you improve your picker. By the way, there's a link right here to schedule a discovery call with me. In the description below is a link to schedule a call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Because if you have the old saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, I'm here to say that when you're choosing the wrong person over and over again, it might behoove you to get some genuine feedback from someone to look at your blind spots. And one of the benefits I have of being a male coach is I view you from that female perspective. And I'm not going to sell you on this idea of feminine energy, because it's not about feminine energy that's going to attract a man. It's about being truly your authentic self, because your authentic self is the person that you carry throughout the relationship, instead of, like Chris Rock says in the beginning, many people are the ambassador of them best selves. And while I'm all in favor of being in your empowerment, I'm a huge proponent of being in your empowerment, there's a lot more to the mechanics to a healthy, happy relationship. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I continually recommend book after book after book. By the way, again, there's a link below to all the books I recommend. If you don't understand the mechanics of a relationship, if you don't understand the mechanics of true emotional intimacy, then it's going to be difficult to forge that deep bond of trust. And ultimately, what is a secret about? Secret is about maybe there are parts of you that should be shared in the relationship, but many of you haven't built that deep bond of trust. And trust isn't just about fidelity. Trust is, does this person have my best interest at heart? Can I count on this person? Does this person care about my feelings as much as they care about their own feelings, or at least as much as I care about my feelings? And so in some cases, again, you may want to share personal, intimate things about yourself. We call them secrets. At the same time, I would only do that with someone who's capable of receiving these things, including things that you might hate about yourself. Number 3, insecurities about the relationship. I'm not so certain that this isn't actually something you should discuss, and let me tell you why. For the last couple of weeks, I've had some clients reach out to me with men who have been what I call lukewarm in the early stage of dating. And I had one client, by the way, I've shared this. I'm going to give you the example of what I shared with a client, but they were having an exchange. There was a text message exchange. He did the whole, how's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. That's from a Seinfeld episode. And she responded back, I had a good day. I had a business meeting. And then she went on to say, I can't remember the person's name. We'll call him Tim. Tim, I just want you to know I like you. Not but. You don't want to put a but to negate what you said. So she said, and I like you, and my gut is telling me you feel lukewarm about me. Is my gut right? Okay. I've shared this with many clients recently, which I think is an important, and by the way, I'm only sharing the specifics because many of you are experiencing men who might be acting lukewarm. And the way he responded back blew my mind away, in a good way. Okay, I just want to say in a good way. What she did is she opened the door to a conversation by expressing she was feeling insecure. And it turns out he was feeling insecure about her, and she was feeling insecure about him. So I'm not so certain that insecurity shouldn't be shared. At the same time, to actually create a deeper conversation between two people. Look, listen, I want to differentiate between growth conversations and sabotaging conversations. That's right, growth. So what she was doing, what I call is a growth conversation, was an opportunity to have a dialogue to grow the relationship. It wasn't coming from a place of insecurity per se. It was coming from a vulnerable, authentic, and transparent place. If you're coming at it from a place of pure insecurity and you're challenging the person to make you feel better, well, then that's going to backfire on you. And I wouldn't suggest that. At the same time, sharing insecurities about a relationship, there's a picture of my sweetheart and I. We're on a cruise ship. I love her in that red dress. We've occasionally shared some of the things we are feeling insecure about our relationship as an opportunity to grow our relationship. In my spiritual community, we call these withholds. Actually, I'm going to talk about withhold a little bit more with the next one. But it's saying there's something I've been holding in and I want to share it with you. And the fourth one is judgments about the person, judgment thoughts. Now, I want to talk about judgment thoughts because there's a difference between a judgment and a judgment thought. If you're not familiar with the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, here's the cover of the book. Definitely check this out. This will help you learn to talk to the voices in your head. And we all have thoughts of judgment. There's a difference between judging a person, meaning you most likely come at it from, you could judge a person from a positive perspective, but coming at it from a negative perspective versus the thought of judgment. I had one client share with me that she had just met a man and they really hit it off. In fact, they ended up being in a relationship with one another. At the time, he was casually dating another woman. And they had gotten intimate together. And she challenged him because he expressed strong interest for her, but said, are you being authentic with this other woman? And she judged him as being somewhat disingenuous. Now, she expressed that judgment as an opportunity to create a dialogue, those growth conversations versus those sabotaging conversations. Now, since he was an emotional grown-up, since he wasn't emotionally constipated, he was able to take that in and really reflect on his own behavior. And she came at it from a sincere place. What I talk about in my book, by the way, here's my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. Chapter 1 is Speak Your Truth. Just do it with kindness. In chapter 9, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So by expressing that judgment thought, it created an opportunity for deeper dialogue. And he looked within and said, you're right. I'm being disingenuous with this person. And this is a tricky thing because women oftentimes look at I just want to go off on a rabbit hole or a tangent here. Ladies, some men are crystal clear with you. They do not want a relationship with you, and they are completely happy having sex with you, okay? And many of you buy into that, believing you can change his mind. When a man is clear, he doesn't want a relationship with you for whatever reason he said, but he's happy to engage in sex with you. And I know this because I've done this before in my life, okay? And I've had women probably believe that they can change my mind. Well, that's on them. Okay. So just remember, if you want a true life partner, if you want someone, as the movie Life is Better with Company, as in the movie Up in the Air, George Clooney says, then it behooves you to do a better job of picking, especially in the areas of emotional maturity. And that's one of the things we focus on in my private coaching, is how to determine, is he an emotional grown-up versus those men who are emotionally constipated. And the fifth one are shame stories. Now, this one's near and dear to my heart from a personal reason, because many of you know I lost a child. There's a picture of Connor right there with his brother on his brother's graduation. It's my son Connor, who passed away 5 years ago. And I carry some deep shame around that. I carry some shame over my behavior in my marriage. I carry some shame over my complete breakdown emotionally after my divorce, where I was a train wreck for a long period of time. And by sharing these shame stories with my partner, I take the risk of being perceived as weak. That's the problem with when you share a shame story. At the same time, it's an opportunity to build deeper trust, to build deeper emotional intimacy with someone. Because here's the thing. Now, some people have shame stories centered around having an STD. I know some women have shame stories over having an abortion at some point in their life. So there are absolutely stories. I shared my personal ones about how I felt like I wasn't a good parent when my son passed away in the early stage of our relationship. Again, sometimes sharing your shame story with a partner who you really can build deep trust and love actually releases the shame. So I'm not so sure, these are ones where you have to be really delicate. And again, I'm all in favor of being vulnerable, being authentic, and being transparent. Just do it in a kind way. Make sure you're not doing it from a place of fear where you need validation from the other person. At the same time, it's about really if you are going to share a shame story, it's about timing, okay? And again, timing is really about building trust. At the same time, you have to be aware, is this person going to be able to receive what I share in a way that isn't going to sabotage the relationship? These are tricky things. So, I hope these 5 shame secrets might give you some insight into what I think is the real crux of this conversation. Are you having growth conversations with a man, or are you having sabotaging conversations with a man? And sabotaging usually comes from our deep fear of not being good enough, not being lovable, not being likable. This is why, again, I recommend reading my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Read all the empowerment books I recommend in the link below, because it is through our individual empowerment can we actually be able to really thrive in a relationship and build that long-lasting life partner commitment with one another. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you're brand new. Again, all the links below if you want to schedule a discovery call with me, if you want to join my group, if you can't afford coaching, if you want to get the books I recommend, or follow me on social media as well.